I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say no one will love you as you are, but I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. Glorious.
Hello.
When the sharpest words wanna cut me down,
Wanna cut me down?
blood gonna
I'm
drown 'em out.
gonna drown them out.
I am brave.
Hey, I
Yeah.
really love this song. It's great that you picked this song as our opening song because I think
Yeah.
it's very appropriate,
Yes.
especially for what we are talking about. So,
Hello.
good morning. Good morning. Well,
Good
wherever you are.
evening.
Good morning.
Good
morning in another country.
Yes, because it's always morning everywhere at
Yes.
some point in the universe.
Somewhere.
Yes.
It's morning somewhere.
Yeah, so again, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Happy Sunday. We hope everyone is safe and dry over the weekend. So we would like to welcome everyone to the second session for SPEAKTrum. So for those who are joining us for the first time, we are Bruja Hub B Squad or BBS, and we are comprised of Lance, Mikey, Nico, Maya, myself. We also have Mark who's going to join us, and then there are also two girls who are part of the group but who cannot join. We have Ange and Patty. So as I mentioned, this is actually the second episode of SpeakRoom. So SpeakRoom is actually an avenue where we discuss the issues, challenges of the people under the spectrum. So to give us an intro of what you will talk about and who our guest speakers are for this session, so I'd like to give the mic to Lance. Lance, take it away.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Maya, for transferring the mic. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, what our first guests are actually, I've seen them being mentioned by Tita Gus in Tita Talks or the Gus Station. And it was a good way to introduce them that we saw a different perspective on how they tackled or how they viewed Pearl Next Door and the other lesbian series or the other GL series that came in. So in their channel, what also they do, you get an insight of what their daily life is, how they live in Singapore, how they unbox, how do you date a lesbian girl, etc. and etc. So please give a warm welcome to our good friends, Unwind with Din.
Yay!
Hello.
Kumusta?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would like to shout out some friends down there.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Hi to Emlyn Zar and Abigail fam.
Hi, Mars.
Ayan.
Yan.
Hi, yes, I see you
Hi.
guys. Thanks for being
Hey,
here.
hey. Thanks so much. Yeah, may mga bago tayong classmates. Hi, guys. Hi, Pete.
Yes, the classmates are here. Represent. Thank you, guys.
Yes. Yan, kumusta din? And Anne, how are you?
We're good. Ito, tumataba.
Oy, I think that is a dilemma for a lot of us since we're just stuck at home.
Yes. Ayun.
But dito sa Singapore, ano na kami, parang normal
Medyo maluwag na. Oo.
Uy,
Ang dami
nice.
na tao sa labas. Parang back to norm. Almost back to normal na. Pero may limitations pa rin. Yep.
Cool.
Mm.
Okay, all right. So, before we actually have Tin and talk about something else, I'd like to introduce us, the next speaker or guest natin. He's actually a good friend. We've been friends since college. He's a good debater. Well, aside from that, I'd like to share like a fun fact about him. He used to work for Philippine Commission for Women, tama ba ako? And Gender and Development, right? But more than that, I think I like to introduce my friend as really good in dramatics. May mga eksena kami before in college na talagang sakali nagdadrama-drama kaming ganyan. He has this quirky side of himself. He's feisty and funny. But more than that, he's a very good debater. So I'd like to introduce Rene Gandeza. Hi, Rene.
Hello.
Hey. Hey.
Hello. Hi.
How are
Hello.
you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited and I'm feeling all some things about what's happening around us, especially with how the government is managing it.
Right.
We have a
Right.
lot of thoughts about that as well, right? So you're not alone there.
Right. Uy, thank you Rene. It was
Thank
so
you
it was at
also.
the very last minute eh kasi kahapon lang yata kami nag-chat. And then alam
Mm,
naman yan sobrang on the go talaga yan. But I think he's also like the best person also to be included in this conversation, right? Okay, ayan. So, siguro we
thanks,
will start off.
Renee. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rene. Yep. So we will basically just make it conversational for everybody. We're gonna be talking about something really serious, rather, but it's more glaring in the states. It's a very Western concept, no microaggression. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
this is actually our second conversation or our second session. Last week, as we were joined by Thais Estrada, we basically had a conversation about Soji and the Soji bill. Now we will get into our lived experiences, sabi nga ni Thais, no. And just to
Yeah.
give you a background, we were kind of like triggered by a particular incident, rather, on a
Yes.
nighttime show, di ba?
Yes. A nighttime
Yes.
show.
Yes. And then basically parang we reacted, iniisip pa natin ano ba talaga ang dapat nating second topic. And then it came about, so we decided to have it as our topic for tonight, no microaggression, right? This is fairly new for Filipinos, so that's why we really
Mm-hmm.
intended to talk about it tonight, right? So basically we'll kick it off by understanding what microaggression is, right? Ano ba
Mm-hmm.
talaga ang microaggression? Ayan. What is microaggression and how does it come into play in real life experiences?
Mm-hmm.
Yan. We can probably start off with Rene, and then we can get insights and inputs
Okay.
from Ann and Tin. Yeah, Rene?
I think the first thing that needs to be said when we talk about microaggression is to have a common understanding what it is, because it's difficult for us to say that this is my experience of microaggression, etc., if we don't have a common understanding of what it is. As a concept, microaggression is something that we've coined and originated in the 70s to describe the different levels of discrimination that was experienced by African Americans. However, because the experience of being discriminated is a shared experience among individuals that belong to a particular minority
Yeah.
group, then it expanded to include sexual and gender microaggression. What's interesting about microaggression is that it manifests in insidious but very varied ways. So it
Mm-hmm.
may be intentional or unintentional. And this is where it's actually a little complicated because a lot of times the microaggression that we experience that is difficult to respond to are those that are unintentional, and it can be in a form of verbal, nonverbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative connotations about a person's sexual or gender identity, denoting that that identity is less valuable than everyone else. So,
Yes.
in general, medyo based on the concept, I guess that's the best way to summarize it. One important thing to
Mm-hmm.
take note of when we speak of microaggression is that no one is excused from it. What does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? What that
Okay.
means is that mga tao kasi usually assumes that only specific individuals are capable of committing microaggression. But in reality, because all of us, whether intentional or unintentional, are brought up in an environment that instilled particular narratives and ideas around us. Uh, we are capable of committing microaggressions. Just to give you a general example of what this is, there's this test that psychologists conduct to determine children's biases to people of
Okay.
color. So ito mga bata, hindi naman sila tinuruan to become racist. Hindi rin sila in-educate to react in a particular manner or see a particular group of people in a negative light. But when they're asked to look at two very identical dolls, with the only difference being the skin color of the dolls, tapos tinanong sila which of these two dolls is likely to be bad or to be evil, and then ang sagot ng mga bata all the time will always be the doll that has a darker complexion. And this is true not only for white children, but even children of POC children. So, yung mga batang black children, Latino, etc., they all respond the same way. So, this is in one way uh, already a manifestation of that particular microaggression. So, tinatanong sila sino yung most likely to be a bad child. Tapos automatically their response is that.
Right. Okay.
What's interesting about microaggression is that yung manifestation niya, it can be very subtle, and in which case, sometimes it's more harmful because hindi siya pwedeng i-legislate. Or we can impose a legal restriction to avoid it. We can't demand a particular level of protection if you can't police something that is deemed not to be illegal naman. And even if we try to craft a law around it, mahirap pa rin because these are interpersonal relationships that people have, and a lot of times these are things that we hold in our minds. So an example of this is the relationship of a doctor to an LGBTQIA patient.
Right.
Si doctor, binigyan naman ng treatment si patient. So there's nothing that is illegal or possibly a malpractice there. So you can't legislate that, but there is a manifestation in terms of how the doctor, for example, misgenders the patient, or how the doctor's under the assumption that a trans woman should be treated the way that they would treat a man, or for instance, the way that they would accept the level of pain that these individuals would report on a scale of 1 to 10 under the assumption that men are more capable of tolerating pain compared to that of women. So yung mga bagay na yun, that's what makes it quite difficult. Institutionally, this is also something that is quite harmful in the sense that when we're deciding on crafting laws, for example, even yung sobrang basic na social equality bills, something that we all have because every single human being has a SOGI, is always framed under the, oh, this is going to be an assault or to our heterosexual understanding of relationships and marriages. So that's when you get to codify the microaggression, to use that against and weaponize that against a group of people and institutionalize that into a law. So when we talk about how this translates into the law, it can either be something that is prohibitive, meaning active siya, na sinasabing hindi mo pwedeng gawin to, or we're completely absent around it. So, for instance, kung titingnan natin yung family code, one of the grounds for annulment dati pa nga is yung sinasabi nilang homosexuality, or yung magkaiba pa yung description nila, homosexuality and lesbianism, as if lesbianism is something that's completely different from that of homosexuality. So the fact na classify siya under deplorable acts such as addiction, gambling, etc., already denotes the kind of microaggression that these people have when they were crafting that law at that point in time. Or for instance, when we look at inheritance law natin, where surviving spouse of or surviving partner of a homosexual relationship is not legally identified as someone that can inherit yung whatever property that they have, something which heterosexual couples are capable of having. So those are the general manifestations of it. But one of the things na I find a bit disturbing when it comes to microaggression is when it's manifested, and this is where I would say na a lot of people would think na because we belong in the same community na we're incapable of manifesting microaggression. But in reality,
It happens.
even within our community, ang dami na nangyayaring ganito. So, what are examples of this? Kung may mga tao that are identifying as bisexual, and how dalawa yung treatment dyan. Either people would say that they're, tatlo pala, either people would say that they're confused, people would not believe them, and would say na if they're with a male partner at that point in time, hindi naman siya bisexual, but the person is gay. Or if the person is with a heterosexual partner or a female partner, assuming na male bisexual siya, they will not believe the person would just say na, baka naman sexually promiscuous ka lang. Or they will say that the person is just promiscuous, that's why ina-identify niya yung sarili niya as bisexual because it means the more entries you said, the more chances of winning. Or a perfect example na lang nito, yung general assumption of people na it's packaged under a compliment, pero in reality, microaggression siya. So for instance, if you're if you're a gay person and yung karamihan ng friends mo are all heterosexual cisgendered male, tapos they will tell you, you know what, I am friends with you because you're not like the other gays. Or people will say it's so surprising na you're not like, this is just to illustrate it better. For instance, if we look at say Lance, for example, he does not fit what people stereotypically imagine a gay person is. So pag titingnan mo siya and he will self-identify as gay, they'll probably going to say na kung hindi ka halata, as if that's a compliment. Or minsan yung palagi natin narinig, ay pogi, sayang, bakla.
Sayang ka.
So, caveat. So the caveats are also a manifestation of the microaggression. And even within the community, for instance, yung mga tao na tinatanong, are you top or bottom? These are things that we normally don't ask heterosexual individuals, but we feel that in a homosexual relationship, lang natin siyang tanungin. And there's an underlying basis for the reason why we're interested in these things, and that roots from very patriarchal bias ng mga tao. So there's a general assumption na pag bottom ka, you're the more feminine one. You embody the character of the female in the relationship, whereas kung top, ikaw yung more masculine, more athletic, etc. And for a lot of gay people, whether they are aware of it or not, the moment that they would say, I never would want to date anyone who's effeminate, or I don't want to be involved with someone who is a bottom, for example, that already manifests as a microaggression rooted from a very patriarchal understanding that someone in a relationship has to occupy a specific role that is masculine and feminine, or even within lesbian couples, for example, there's always a question of sino yung babae, sino yung lalaki sa relationship, and there's always the assumption na dapat yung lesbian couple, one of them has to be butch and the other has to be a lipstick lesbian. But if both of them are butch lesbians or both of them are lipstick lesbians, for some reason people get discombobulated and would not be able to grapple with the idea that two very feminine women can be attracted to each other. This is much worse when we talk about our trans brothers and sisters na palaging nagiging point of conversation are you going to get your breast enlarged? Are you going to undergo
Sex
gender reassignment
reassignment.
surgery, etc. Na parang,
Yeah.
yeah, parang merong criteria palagi. Or for instance, if you're a trans woman and you look and you pass, palaging they make it seem like it's a compliment na, uy, hindi ka halata. Or parang, uy, sobrang feminine mo. You look like a woman. Uh, or if conversely naman, if you get clocked, there's that notion na either sabihin bakla ka or sasabihin nilang uh, they won't believe that you are they won't believe the validity as a trans person just because you don't fit in a particular image of what they imagine these to
Right.
be. So yun yung mga examples and manifestations.
Considerations. Yeah.
Of course, those are just examples. Sobrang dami pa ng mga
Yeah.
ng mga things that you can think about. The way that we can further expand that is if we add additional layers of identity sa mga tao. So we may factor in hello, can you guys hear me?
Hello. Medyo choppy
Yeah,
ka.
you're kind of
Medyo
choppy
choppy.
now. So
Ayun. So,
Yeah.
like what I said, yeah.
yun na.
Am I back now? Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's still choppy. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ayun. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to speak slower na lang. But just to conclude my point, yung experiences natin ng microaggression, may multiplier effect yung other layers of our identity. So, say for example,
Yeah.
for both Nico and myself, who grew up in Mindanao and are Bisaya, whenever people could either detect or not detect the accent, there's always that layer of kunwaring praise na parang, oh, I couldn't tell na you're Bisaya because I couldn't sense it from your accent. Or if they can hear the accent, they'll classify you as, eto klase bakla ka, or you're this kind of lesbian. So there's always that layer of additional discrimination. Or if you're a Muslim, for example, and you happen to be a gay person or a lesbian, there's already that assumption na you can never be who you are because your religion disallows it, even when in some spaces naman, even in Islam, it is allowed. Or kung babae ka as a lesbian, not only do you have to deal with a microaggression that you experience as a lesbian, may layer pa ng additional discrimination that you have when you factor in the fact that you are a woman as well. Or kung transgender ka, there's also that general idea of people, of what people think a woman or a man should be. So yun yung mga different manifestations and different instances that microaggression manifests. So just to wrap things up, or just to conclude the initial things I said, microaggression is a complicated matter because sobrang dami ng manifestations niya. And even the manifestations are not always ill-intended. Sometimes, innocent talaga yung tao and wala siyang idea na manifestation na pala yun ng microaggression. And microaggression all the time is not something that we should be tolerating, but something that is worth thinking about, not only on our personal experience, but also because the microaggression informs a lot of the lived experience that we have, may it be in terms of how it's legally integrated into our laws, how we're treated by professionals at work, or even accessing healthcare, for example, or accessing housing, etc. But the last thing is that everyone is capable of manifesting microaggression because we're all a product of the environment that we grew up in, and
Mhm.
we have biases as individuals.
Okay. So, Rene, thank you so much for that. That was very comprehensive, no, coming
Yes.
from you with that
Mm-hmm.
experience in gender and development. Thank you so much for that. Siguro I'd like to recap na lang for the audience kasi medyo choppy ng konti, but very, very insightful, very rich insights. Thank you so much, Rene. Siguro, you can add up, no, guys, if you have something to add up to this. Siguro, microaggression, just to simplify, would be like subtle discriminatory remarks or acts, right? It can be like a statement or it can be actions that you do towards somebody from the minority, right? When we talk about minority, we talk about LGBT, women, people from the province, like we talk about ethnicity and race. Kaya sabi natin kanina, it's glaring in the United States because we see racism, right? Kitang-kita mo talaga ang discrimination doon, no? In the Philippines, it's really subtle, no? So yun yung kailangan natin inuwan siguro in our discussion right now. Aside from them, I think Rene also made mention of microaggression. These subtle discriminatory statements and acts have been integrated in social systems like the law, right? For example, yung mga social interactions natin, yung minention niya, like with the doctor, right? Di ba? May marami
Mm-hmm.
mga incidents. So these microaggressions have been integrated in society. So parang deeply rooted na talaga siya yung sinasabi ni Rene. But another interesting thing that he made mention is intersectionality. Okay, what does it mean?
Mm.
You have to put microaggression against other variables. He made mention of, say, sabi niya kaming dalawa kasi we speak Cebuano and we have the Bisaya accent, no? So,
Yeah.
bakla kami, we're gay, pero pag narinig nila kaming magsalita, they would say, "Uy, ang galing mo naman magsalita. Ang perfect ng English mo. Bisaya ka ba?" Yung mga ganong statements. These are microaggressions. And the intersectionality of our gender, of our gender identity is included there. And so mas ano mo yun, may double or multiple standards na include women, for example, no? So lesbian kayo pareho pero dahil babae kayo, 'di ba merong mga ganong subtle discriminatory remarks. Pag ikaw ay nasa isang religion na conservative, na very traditional, parang wala kang karapatan na i-express yung sarili mo. I think that's what I got basically from Rene. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think Rene was saying that it's not just based on the minority, but it's all for everyone. Like, let's say you're a white, strong male, but you have to fit that certain mold given by that society. So they could do a microaggression to say na, oh, you're white, you may be this, you may be that, parang ganun, or you may be a male, or you may be this. So it's like the unseen biases that we have, and if you use it as an insult or as a slap on the face commentary, that becomes microaggression. I think that's the greatest. That's the shortest summary I could think of.
Okay.
Yeah. I think for me, it's really what makes it really insidious, like what was mentioned earlier, is because it's sort of like below the radar. I mean, sometimes it's in the form of just a comment, but that comment, if you don't really think about it, appears to be maybe harmless, but it chips away at the person's confidence or in their spirit because somehow it sort of gives them the impression that they are not conforming to a particular standard or to a particular mindset or mold, right? So, for example, in your case, you mentioned, ang galing mo naman mag-English. And this is something that foreigners tell Filipinos all the time, right? And parang, oh, ang galing mo naman mag-English. And we were like, and usually I'm like, yeah, the medium of instruction is English, so why wouldn't we know how to speak English? So it sort of gives the impression that parang, you're different. You're not, I wasn't expecting you to be able to speak English that well. And it surprises me that you are able to speak English that well. And in my case, I'm like, well, I can speak it. I mean, it's normal because I've been speaking it since I was born. So why is it surprising for you that I'm able to speak this way? So that's the thing, no? Parang, it's really about how other people view you and how they see you as sort of like something abnormal. When we use abnormal, out of the ordinary, di ba? Parang yun nga, you don't fit that particular mold. And yes, di ba, it's even more complicated when we have intersectionals, like women, lesbians who are also Muslim, because you have the gender aspect of it and you also the religion aspect of it. So all those things sort of like collide, right?
Also, I'm kind of curious what the two will say later on because they're part of the three
Oh,
intersectionals. They're Filipinos
yeah,
living in Singapore. They're a lesbian
exactly.
couple and they're female. So that's a three.
Yeah.
Those are three intersectionals. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, especially how the Singaporeans would view the Filipinos, or
Right,
what
right.
microaggressions would they be throwing at them too. So let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I lost my train of thought. So go ahead, guys.
Sorry, sorry.
And Anton, go ahead.
For us, bago lang sa amin 'tong microaggression
Na
na term.
Uh-huh.
term. Oo.
But, um, ah, as na nababasa namin yung mga
Articles, mga
articles,
ganon.
yung mga definition,
Research.
everyday pala namin na-experience 'to.
Grabe.
Simula bata
Okay.
pa,
Grabe, no?
'di ba?
Yeah.
So, hindi lang sa pagiging lesbian or something, even at work,
Oo.
even dito sa foreign country na ini-stayan namin,
Mm.
na-experience natin, 'di
Oo,
ba?
hindi lang natin alam yung term na yun. Actually, nung
Okay.
sinabi ninyo yung topic, nagtanong-tanong din ako sa mga ka-work ko and they are not familiar
Okay.
with the term.
Okay.
So,
Oh.
we are really thankful na in-introduce nyo yung term na to. At least aware kami. And yun lang yung dapat lang sigurong anong tawag doon?
Educate.
Ayun, ma-educate lahat, anong tawag?
Know how to handle it.
Oo.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yun yung maki-aid yung awareness. Yan.
Oo.
Awareness. Para, alam niyo yun, alam natin paano mag-respond. Ganun.
Maging mas conscious din siguro.
Lalo na sa amin na fem, ang daming namin experience na microaggression na although sasabihin nila half meant or joke, pero
Ayun.
Yeah.
Medyo,
iba yung dating eh.
mm-mm.
So, meron akong mga na-experiences before na kailangan palang i-educate lang yung tao.
Yeah.
Oo.
Okay.
Yun, ganun.
Or just tell them with kindness.
Yes. Tell them with kindness. Yes.
Siguro, maganda yung sinabi ni Anintin. Kasi, sabi nga natin at the beginning of the session, parang this is really new for us, especially Filipinos, no? Siguro, towards the end of the session, we can come up with a Filipino or Tagalog term kasi microaggression medyo technical eh, no? Siguro, after natin mag-discuss and mag-share ng mga experiences natin, especially in the workplace, sabi nga ni Anintin, baka makaisip na tayo ng Tagalog word or term. Ano ba talaga itong microaggression na to? Kasi, tama, sabi nila Tin and na parang, na-experience nila. Pero ano nga ba to? Microaggression pala yung term. Pero baka mas may better term tayong magagamit in Filipino context and Filipino consciousness. You know? But yun, thank you, Ann and Tin. Yan.
Can I jump off of what they said?
Yeah, sure.
They mentioned that from the very beginning, even when we were young, microaggression has been present. And that's very true. It actually starts in the home, diba? Yung, for example, if you have a boy who wants to play with a Barbie, or if you want a boy who likes to wear pink clothing, right? The very first thing that you will hear out of a person's mouth is, wag kang gaganyan-ganyan, wag kang babakla-bakla, or babae lang ang pwedeng mag-ano niyan. That is already a microaggression, because you are telling that person that there is something wrong with what they are thinking or doing, right? When in fact, for a child, there is no concept yet of racism or gender or right and wrong. It's really just a blank slate for all of them. So that is immediately a microaggression, right? Now, when we go to the schools, it's the same thing. Pretty much, boys don't play volleyball. Boys should play basketball, right? And it's systemic, especially in a culture like the Philippines, where we uphold the machismo concept or idea, right? And that is something very, very difficult to sort of like debug or to tear down, because it's basically ingrained in our culture. Our culture is patriarchal. So that's why it's so hard, and that's why probably we don't have a term for it, or it's something new for us, because it's something that Western culture has probably, it originated with the Western culture, basically. We don't have it because it's something that we haven't really thought about, or something that we haven't really experienced or discussed. So that's why, even for me, and I consider myself an educated person, but there is always something new that I learn in terms of our community, in terms of our challenges. So I'm also probably guilty of all these things. I've told people like, uy, buti ka pa, hindi ka halata, So we are all guilty of it. And that's why it's very important that we talk about it, because
Mhm.
awareness is basically the foundation of understanding and also the foundation of inclusion. And that's basically what we want for our community to be. We can be better together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah. And actually, kasi when we were growing up also, if you tried to call that out, like what Anli Mar was saying a while ago, na we were being said that we're overly sensitive, para kayong, you're just walking on eggshells or walking on glass, parang ganun.
Yeah.
So, those were the side comments. And it also happens culturally. Like, they would think that the Visayas are certain like this. Like, for us, they think we always eat dogs. Mga ganun. Kasi may gurot, so they think we associate us with eating dogs. Agad. So, and it's not that. Or I think the favorite nila would be, especially Filipinos, yung nalaitin ka because of your nose. Dahil pango ka daw.
Right.
And they forget that we are pango, or some of us are pango, because of our geography. Na it makes the air travel faster, especially with the humid weather.
That's
Compared to the longer noses in the Western cultures, it's a cooler air, so they need the long nose to make the air warmer inside when they go through the nasal passage and it goes into your body. So those little things. And it's funny how if you go to our brand of comedy too, that those little insults are being used as comedy too.
And Renee mentioned earlier about sort of like a spectrum of microaggression. So I think you have micro insult, micro assault, and then I forgot what the other one was. But it's not just in words, it's also in deeds. And even though, for example, it's not overtly done or directed, it can be felt by the person or the victim. Like, for example, if you have two people who walk into a shop and they're both at the counter, let's say they're standing side by side, more often than not, you would have the counter person talking to the whiter person or to the foreigner first before they talk to the darker person or to the less attractive person. Because we all have our unconscious biases, right? But for you to be able to, let's say, prefer one person over the other just because of their looks, or probably because of their race or their ethnicity, or maybe even of their sexuality, or maybe even of their age, that's already a microaggression. But as Filipinos, we do it all the time. And the resilience thing, we keep quiet about it. We don't call it out because as a culture, we're not confrontational. So, alam mo yun, parang one of the reasons why I also wanted to really be involved in this talk, in this project, is because we have to start standing up for ourselves. Alam mo yun? Kasi, think of it this way, if a microaggression is a paper cut, you can handle one or two. But you compound that over time and over the number of microaggressions that you experience on a daily basis, those paper cuts are going to kill you. It's going to chip away at your spirit, at your at your person, on who you are.
Lalo na ngayon na nasa social media tayo, diba?
Correct. But then, and even in social media, even sa channel nyo, may mga ganun kayong comments na nakikita ba?
Recently, lalo na ngayon na madaming mga organic viewers sa amin. Like, there's one guy, I don't know, hindi na namin i-mention. Ano siya, ang negative nung mga comments niya sa reaction namin sa Pearl Next Door. But not because of the Pearl Next Door comment. Because of the LGBT term that we use on the title. So, against siya doon sa LGBT term na yon na sabi niya, pakitanggal, nakakairita. So,
what?
Yes.
Okay, your channel. This is my channel. You're free to not watch.
So kami, parang dahil first time namin maka-encounter ng ganong negative comment, parang nasaktan ako. But in a long time, parang nare-realize ko na nilalagay namin yung sarili namin sa position niya. Which is, ang dami niya sinabi doon na hindi dahil kapag ba girl, LGBT na agad, lesbian na ba agad. So,
sabi niya, kung lesbian kayo, sige nga, magdamit lalaki kayo, sabi nga.
Patunayan nyo na tomboy kayo.
Oo.
Ano daw?
So, parang gano'n na parang ang dami niyang sinabi pero ang sabi lang namin sa kanya, "We love you."
Oo.
Okay.
Na,
Yun
yeah.
lang. We love
Tapos
you.
in the end,
After namin sinabing we love you, nag-sorry siya.
Okay. Okay.
Yung parang we respect his opinion,
oo.
please respect our opinion, parang gano'n.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We tried our best na maging mahinahon kasi
Mm.
sabi nga ni Tin, tinatry naming intindihin yung point of view niya. Baka may struggle siya na pinagdadaanan.
Right. Right.
Experience siya na bad experience.
Oo. So,
Okay.
nilawakan na lang namin yung pag-iisip namin. So, yun. Sabi ko sa kanya, kung re-replyan mo yan, sabihin mo na lang, we love you. Yung positive na lang sabihin mo.
Yeah. Pero alam mo, yun nga parang that's why we're discussing this because we're getting insights on how we should approach microaggression, which we will expound naman later. Pero thank you, Tin and Ano. Masakit man siya. Maganda yung analogy ni Mikey a while ago, no? Parang paper cuts. May napanood din akong video on YouTube. Ano naman, mosquito bites naman yung analogy. Na maraming mosquito bites, syempre, mawo-worsen na yung situation. Ganun din yun eh. But then again, compassion and then love na lang ang pwede nating maibigay sa mga ganito eh, no? At the end of the day. Kasi yun yung magandang way to really make them aware at the end of the day. Kasi, di mo, sabi nyo nga, parang bigla silang nag-tone down eh. Di ba? Parang nag-sorry, di ba? Pero grabe, no? Ako, I feel sad for both of you and sa atin, no? In the LGBT community. Because we always adjust. We always calculate. We always plan para hindi maagrabyado yung mga taong to. And it's sad for me, really, to be honest with you. Yun lang yung sabihin ko. But thank you, Tain and Ann, for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Siguro
What's also
natin yung mag-create ng awareness para aware din lahat ng tao. Kasi, halimbawa, tayo aware na tayo. So, tayo mas nakakaintindi.
Oo.
Yeah.
I had experience before na college friend ko siya. As in, hindi naman masyadong close, pero friend ko siya in college. And then, he reached out sa akin na nag-message siya sa Facebook. Sabi niya sa akin, Tin, lesbian ka pala. Pero dati nagbo-boyfriend ka. Ano nangyari? Tapos, so, todo explain ako. Tapos sabi niya, sayang ka.
That part.
Okay. Yes, exactly.
Kahit one word lang yun, ang sakit.
Totoo.
Yes.
I-handle eh. Ang sabi ko sa kanya, next time na may ma-encounter ka na LGBT friends mo man or hindi mo friends, don't say the word sayang. Kasi malay mo, yung person na yun, mas ano pa sa'yo, mas ano yun? Mas successful pa sa'yo. So, hindi sayang yung buhay niya dahil LGBT siya. So, don't use sayang. So, from that, hindi ko siya inatake in negative way. Parang in-educate ko siya na, ayun, nalaman niya na yung term na sayang is
medyo nakakasakit ng damdamin ng iba.
But I've encountered that situation as well. Wherein, for example, I have a girlfriend, a woman friend, and then we would be looking at, like, nice visuals, and then they would be like, "Alam mo, sayang, grabe naman, sayang," and my response would be, "More for us, like the." Hindi yan sayang at all. Maybe sayang for you, whatever. So that's a different way naman of responding to that. But yeah, if you're saying, I think in that situation, sayang kasi parang bakla, tapos parang wina-waste yung buhay niya. Parang, seriously? Are we still in the Middle Ages? Like,
yeah.
Kasi siguro not fun fact, wrong term. Fact, trivia. And I think this also puts into perspective rin yung sinabi ni Thais, that dogs have more rights than the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
And even a senator said that parang masahol pa sa hayop, which is like, okay, whatever, that's your opinion. But actually, back in the 1950s, I think, actually the homosexuality was termed as a personality disorder by the Psychological Association. So it was even in a manual that sort of like outlines diseases. So alam mo yun, parang there are people who still think the same way, even in this day and age, which is why I think we have to be more vocal about it. We have to talk more about it, and we have to educate more people about it. Kasi admit na natin or not, I mean, there are just some individuals who haven't moved on from that kind of mindset. Alam mo yun?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot
Come
of
on,
work
we
to be
need more
done.
rights we need more rights compared to
Yeah.
dogs.
Chok
I mean,
chok.
yeah, Shuk has more rights than us, unfortunately.
Oh my god. My god. Or Scarlet. Yeah.
Or Laksa.
Or
Mark and
Laksa, right?
how about Mark and Maya? Do you have any
Yeah.
experience
Your
or
thoughts?
probably insights about the microaggression? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Sige, ako muna. I'm looking at Maya kasi sino ba mauuna? But okay. Kasi with, well, the entire, the topic of, or the word microaggression is, well, while it is a Western topic, while it is a Western concept, no? Kasi, with this, in this day and age where we've talked about this earlier, no? We've talked in our past videos na we have this dilemma of when do we embrace Western ideologies and when do we somehow accept these ideologies into our culture. Because somehow it would kind of, well, it's for a debate, pero it would kind of open up our own culture and identity with these foreign concepts. Because they are foreign for a reason. But however, in this day and age, kasi where we are all global citizens now. So I mean, parang we have this idea of debunking nationalism, but that's besides the point. It's being open to global concept and putting it out your opinion and putting out your these ideologies out there so it reaches more people. Kasi that's what we want naman, no? To make it to make every place a better place for everyone. That's the end goal of why we're doing this, while we are all having these conversations, and why we all fight for equality, equal rights, justice, and everything. So with microaggression, while it is a foreign concept for us Filipinos, so just like what we've talked about na earlier in our personal group chat, na if when we decided to talk about microaggression, I asked myself, no, what can I contribute? Because first and foremost, again, it's a foreign concept. While I may be I may know something about it, but I know I'm not as well versed as other people in terms of this conversation. So just like the normal thing that we do, I read some articles just to educate myself more so I could share some insights with you as well, because we all want this conversation naman to be a two-way street or seven-way street. Yeah. Kasi with your experience, I've been hearing your experiences earlier with microaggression. Na parang yung term na sayang, I would really want to give my opinion away on the word sayang. Na parang when you hear that you're sayang, it's because the other person would think that you are somehow binababa mo yung sarili mo on how the society or even that person thinks where you are already. I mean, if yes, I'm gay, so if whenever people tell me that sayang ka because you're gay, it would mean na, so since I am a gay or homosexual man, it's also rooted dun sa ideology and thinking that I am a male. So it somehow relates to the conversation that males are still the first class citizens. I mean, females and women are the second class citizens. So parang if you coin the term sayang to me because I am a homosexual male, it would parang you're putting me in a box na I am sayang ko kasi I'm already in the third class citizen. I mean, and not thinking that it might hurt the feelings of the person you're talking to. I mean, yun yung ano yun. I mean, that's how I see the difference of microaggression is with, let's say, plainly being a rude bitch. I mean, how can you differentiate microaggressions from being rude? Kasi um, while we all have these experiences now with microaggressions, we've all experienced some rude people who talk bad things to us straightly. But with microaggressions, yun kasi yung mahirap i-address, no, kasi it's micro. I mean, it's aggressive, but in the smallest and slightest terms that are often misunderstood as passable, as okay.
Right.
Just like, for example,
Exactly.
kasi if someone told me na, uy, let's say, uy, ang pangit mo kasi may sugat ka, or like something or like that, or like you have scars whatsoever. But for me, that's plainly rude.
Yes.
Diba? Kasi you are attacking me personally because of what you see in me. I mean, you're attacking me because of how you see me as pangit. Pero when you tell someone that the nuances that come into play, the social nuances, like for example, you tell someone na, uy, parang nakasale yung ano, yung aesthetic clinic doon. Baka gusto mong magpa-nose lift. So parang, di ba? Parang,
Wow.
while we're like while we all think that it is funny, pero it happens. There are instances na you somehow in jest tell someone na, uy, magpalipo ka or something. Di ba? Parang these conversations, I mean these words, is really detrimental, not because of it being plainly rude, but more so it advances these ideologies that we're all trying to debunk. These conversations and these words um, the topics na tinatry nating talagang, as at least in this day and age, we try na maging mas accepting yung world. So parang if we put forward these microaggressions and if we do not talk about it now, and then if we don't talk about it now, and then when? I mean, it being an entirely foreign topic and a lot of people don't know about it. So when do we start educating people? When do we start putting it out there? And when do we start looking looking for ideas and looking for ways on how to treat microaggression? Because sometimes as Filipinos, we just smile, we just say ha 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 ha. That's what we always do. Parang, while we are escaping the very awkward topic na in terms of microaggression, no? Pero kasi as passive receivers of microaggressions, it doesn't help whenever we just say, whenever we just smile, whenever we say na okay lang yan. I mean, whenever we treat them na, okay, I'll give you a positive, I'll shower you with positivity whilst you showered me with your negativity. I mean, yeah, I understand that these ways for now are what we can do to treat microaggression. But for me, when we treat them as is, like those things, it doesn't quite help with how we all want microaggression to be addressed, no. Pero again, yun kasi yung ano yun yung mahirap na usapan natin eh. Parang if you will be very aggressive naman towards a microaggressive trait, now you turn out to be the rude person, because microaggressions are always rooted from cluelessness. Microaggressions are always rooted from ignorance, that the other person doesn't know that he or she is already offensive. Diba? So, ayun yung mahirap i-tackle, kasi you would first need to educate them and then tell them why they are offensive in that sense. Kasi if you respond to them negatively then because you are offended with their microaggression, they would not understand, kasi mauunahan ng emotions mo, and they would block these emotions, and would turn out na i-block din nila yung education, yung pag-educate mo sa kanila. So I think we have to be very strategic on how we respond to microaggressions, and doing so, I think I just hope na maybe, because I think microaggression being it in the mainstream right now, it cannot be fixed tomorrow or the other day, next month, this year. No, pero baby steps. I mean, we'll soon get there. I hope, and I'm very hopeful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Si Maya.
Maya, go ahead, Maya.
Ako sobrang agree ako dun sa sayang na word because yung iba kino-combine pa yun with something positive or with a compliment. Sasabihin sa'yo, uy, alam mo mag-anak ka, sayang yung genes mo. O kaya
Oh
tipo,
my God.
alam mo matangkad ka, maputi ka, sayang. Parang, oh my gosh, parang did I like waste my life or did I waste my talent just because I'm gay? Or di mo sabihin sa'yo, uy, alam mo matalino ka pero sayang kung di ka
Ayan.
mag-aanak. Mapasa mo
Yes.
yung genes mo. Ganun. So parang,
Mm.
did I like
May naisip akong
make a
response.
deliberate decision to like waste something that I have because of this preference? So yun yung number one. And then pangalawa, may question din pala ako. I'm not sure if you consider this microaggression or not. Kasi may mga instances na when you fit a certain mold, they associate you with a certain type of a minority. Like for example, if you are on a heavier side, you're gay, tapos you're dark colored, sabihin sa'yo, oy, chocolate, tatawagin ka, chocolate. Ganun. Kilala niyo ba si chocolate? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Can that be considered as a microaggression?
Or Rene.
Kasi parang
Rene.
they box you in a specific type. Or they label you. Is that microaggression also?
Rene.
I think there's
Sige,
Sige, Rene.
while waiting for Rene's answer, kaya ko naisip yun kasi may experience din ako before. Nung bata-bata pa tayo, medyo may hair pa tayo. Hindi pa nag-recede yung hairline. So, may bangs ako doon. Tapos, yun yung time na lagi ako nag-beach. So, nag-brown yung hair ko. Tapos, may bangs ako. Tapos, in my previous work, when I visited a different department who I met for the first time, tinawag ako na, uy, Vice Ganda, uy, Vice Ganda, ganyan. Tapos ever since, tinatawag na niya ako na, uy, Vice Ganda. Pero for me, dahil ba may bangs ako, tapos nag-brown siya ng konti, parang I fit that certain mold already. After na nagpagupit talaga ako, parang never na ako nagpa-bangs after.
Yeah, I think that calls on microaggression already. Kasi parang, as Nico saying a while ago, they use the mosquito analogy on that. You felt that bite. So the mere fact that you had the haircut, you didn't want to be boxed on the same aspect.
Yeah. You responded to it kasi. So parang you took it in a way na while he or she may have these remarks na for you were offensive. So when I think it's considered microaggression in my personal definition of the term. Because not only because you responded to it, no, pero kasi these words put you in a certain mold, and you were described to as someone just because of that specific trait. I mean, I don't know if parang after mo I'm curious, after mo magpagupit, tinatawag ka pa din ba niyang ganun?
Well, nag-resign na rin ako sa office na yun. So,
Okay.
never na kami nagkaroon ng after.
Yeah. But I have a question for Anne and Din, no? Because we've talked about family and microaggressions in the family, and one of the things that I've noticed is, especially in Filipino gatherings, is that when you show up and you don't have a date, me for example, they would say, "Oh, kailan ka ba magkaka-girlfriend? Kailan ka ba ikakasal?" So in a way, those are kind of considered microaggressions. Do you guys still experience that? Mga ganong questions?
Sa akin, nung umuwi ako na last year, kasi my younger sister got married. So, yun, after the wedding dun sa reception, almost all of my relatives, one by one, they will approach me and then ask the same question. O, ikaw, panganay ka, kailan ka ikakasal? So, paano ko siya hinandle? Ano lang, kasi that time, ang nasa isip ko, ayoko namang magpaka-stress kasi minsan nga lang din ako umuwi sa Pinas. So, ang sinabi ko na lang, tita, tito, actually, paggabi na. So, siguro tomorrow na lang. Yun. So, yun.
Deflect
Ganun ko
na lang natin.
Yeah.
Oo.
Yeah.
So, yun. Kasi, hindi naman kasi sila aware that time na hindi ko sinasabi sa kanila na I'm a lesbian. So sa mismong family ko lang yun, sa nanay, tatay, tsaka mga kapatid ko silang sinasabi. Pero now, siguro naman aware na sila kasi nagpo-post ako sa FB, yung personal FB ko yung ginagamit ko for our channel. So, right now, siguro pag umuwi ako, hindi na nila ako tatanungin ng same question.
I
Then we
know.
yung kagaya ng sinabi mo, may nagtatanong sa akin, sayang yung egg mo, hindi mo magagamit, maganda ka pa naman, gano'n.
Ayan.
Yun.
Example.
Siyempre, hindi mo naman pwedeng sagutin yung mas nakakatanda sa'yo kasi tito mo yun, tita.
Totoo.
Ay, oo, totoo. Yung mga tita pa, nako.
Oo.
Wait, pero isn't there like a meme or sort of like a joke wherein they were asked the question, di ba? Parang, lahat ng mga contemporary mo, kinasal na, they got married. Kailan ka? Tapos sabi, tita, lahat ng mga contemporary mo, patay na. Ikaw.
Ako yun. Hanapin yung meme na yan.
Hindi porke na lahat nandun na. Ako rin.
Right.
Diba? Parang, okay, it's not for me. I mean, diba?
Siguro, dinadaan natin sa joke yung response natin.
Para gumaan lang din.
But the way na, I think, hindi sila na-educate.
Oo.
Na hindi nila alam na
I think it's a couple of things now.
Pero ngayon, okay
because,
na yung magiging response nila kasi kagaya namin, hanggat maaari din yung mga friends ko sa FB yung mga relatives ko. So, nakikita naman nila siguro na masaya kami ni Tin. So, somehow siguro makakatulong yun na ma-accept nila kami.
Right.
Na parang hindi na namin kailangan i-explain sa kanila.
Oo.
Kung ano yung nakikita nila, yun na yun, na okay kami, wala kami napakan tao, so we don't need to explain.
Right.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Wait,
And usually sagot ko sa mga ganyan, parang I'd say, with the influence ng Soji Builder na, when it's legal, I'll get married when it's legal.
Yeah. Siguro, thoughts ko lang, parang, sige, go ahead, Lance, sorry.
No, it's like, you're trying to break, what Mark was saying a while ago, you're trying to break that mold na, don't assume na parang you're trying to break that certain mold. Although we know that they're coming from a term na, you have to get married so you won't be alone. You won't be alone. Or like the side comments in the family saying na, huy, kumain ka na ba? Kasi pet mo na. Or you're growing so thin. Or parang ganon. We hear those comments a lot. So parang, I know it comes from a good place, but sometimes it could influence you of thinking, am I too thin already? Am I too big already? So those microaggressions may have come in a good place, but we should start breaking that mold na talaga. In a little ways.
Correct. Wait, thoughts ko lang. Parang I've been hearing you guys, like Antin and everybody else, Mikey, Maya, Mark, Lance as well. Siguro ito parang bigger question ko siguro for everybody. Parang, kasi we are nuancing or we are integrating itong microaggression sa Filipino context or consciousness natin eh. Di ba, sinishare nga natin yung mga experiences natin with the relatives. Parang, sabi nga nila parang minsan hindi na natin ini-explain, di ba? Na parang, bukas na lang. Di ba? Mga ganyang eksena. Bukas na lang. Hindi na naman explain yan, tapos makakalimutan na. Para, di ba ganon? Laging ganon. Ang bigger question ko siguro sa lahat, kasi I think I got this from Mark a while ago. Where do we stand? Kasi are we there to make them aware? Or are we there to just let it parang slip and that's it? Parang bahala na. Diba kasi like in this time and age, are we there? Kasi ang Filipino culture very compensatory eh. Parang kunwari may mga microaggression, may mga slight subtle discriminatory remarks here and there, may mga questions na parang very microaggression. Parang we end up just letting it slip away. Parang okay, sige, hayaan na lang natin. Pero are we, in this time and age, are we here to just let it slip away, or are we here to actually educate them and stand up? Kasi maganda yung point din ni Mark kanina na parang nagpagupit si Mayan, binago niya yung buhok niya because para lang hindi na siya masabihang ganon, or do we stand and say, hey, bahala kayo dyan, opinion na yan, di ba? Parang, ako ba, what are your thoughts? I mean, are we, given the Filipino culture, given the Filipino consciousness, are we here to stand and say, hey, that's microaggression? Because I'll give you an example. Ano lang to? Kasi we're talking about experiences na here, no, about microaggression. So, I used to work for a BPO back then, and alam natin yun pag sa BPO, may mga shuttle services yan, no? So, I was working in McKinley before. So, malayo kasi yung pagsasakayan ng commute, no? So, mag-aantay kami ng shuttle, and then meron akong kasama doon, colleague ko. Sabi niya, asan na ba yung si ganyan, somebody, babae to, no? Sabi niya, ang tagal-tagal naman. Asan ba yung baklang yun? Gumanon siya. Imagine, nagpintig talaga yung tenga ko. So sabi ko, uy, sino yung hinahanap mo? Babae yung hinahanap niya. Sabi ko, ba't mo tinawag na bakla? Sabi niya, bakla naman talaga yun. Sabi ko, ano bang konteksto? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng bakla dun sa pagtawag mo? Sabi niya, wala lang, joke lang yun. Papatawa lang naman. Sabi ko, okay, sige, pinoprenosis ko talaga habang nag-aantay ng shuttle eh. Sabi ko, sige, intindihin natin, bakit ka ba naiinis ng bahagya? Sabi niya, kasi mabagal. Sabi ko, ba't di mo sabihin mabagal? Ba't di mo sabihin ang tagal-tagal? Or parang pagong, ganyan. Bakit bakla? Pag bakla, mabagal ba? Tapos, natigilan siya doon. Sabi na, ay, o nga, no. Sabi niya, na-offend ka. Sabi ko, hindi ako na-offend. Ang akin lang kasi, bakit kailangan mo gamitin yung word na bakla? Just to spite on someone, diba? Yeah. So, then a couple of weeks after, biglang binilikan niya ako, sabi niya, alam mo, naintindihan ko yung sinasabi mo. Parang ayoko na gamitin yung word na bakla. Sabi ko, oy, wag mo sabihin na pinopolice kita, ha? Sabi ko, I'm just saying that we have to change our consciousness and our perception of these things. Yung mga maliliit na bagay na ganyan. Kasi sabi nga ni Mike kanina, it will build up eh. Diba, marami kang paper cuts, o marami kang mosquito bites. Ang ending yan, diba, ikaw din at the end of the day, and you have to stand up eh. So yun yung question ko. Ang dami kong sinabi, diba? Sa inyo, what are your thoughts? Parang, do we stand up or do we just let it slip away?
I think ang mahirap din kasi while I'm all for transparency and while I'm also all for feedback, especially if you feel slighted and you also want to give feedback to the other person so that the other person will not repeat that in the future. I think the cultural situations in the Philippines also make it difficult for us to do that. Number one, for example, in my experience earlier in the office, that person who told that to me is a more senior person na who's in his 40s, 30s. Tapos ako fresh grad ako noon. So parang, will I really find myself in a position saying to someone who's super duper senior tas fresh grad ako na, hey, will you stop doing it? Or even to our titos and titas, diba? Meron pa akong isang experience before na I have two sides ng family sa US. One sa San Francisco, tas one sa LA. Tapos, yung sa San Francisco, meron akong experience when I was still young na while I'm with them, may mga makasalubong silang mga bata na bading o kaya mga cross-dressers. Yung tatawagin nila na, ay, bading! Oh my gosh! Parang, ay, bakla! Ganyan. Yung aasa rin nilang ganon. O kaya yung ika-catcall nila ng pabading. So, yung naging effect din sa akin, oh my gosh, never ko sorry ha, naka-broadcast tayo, pero alam to ng mga side ng family ko, hindi ko talaga binivisit yung side ng family. So, I mean, hindi talaga ako comfortable because of that experience. Ang hirap din to like call out those people, especially older generations, older relatives, titos, titas, diba? Ang hirap.
Right. Understandable.
Yeah. Pero if you feel insulted, let's say na you feel that you really got hurt because of that. I know we're not really a confrontational culture, which is different from what we all grew up. Because it's Western eh. I think that came from a Western perspective. And knowing us as Asians, we're usually, let's try to look for back door. Let's try to go around it. Parang ganun. You won't attack front. Yep. And I think that's where I felt na we were somehow, I had to balance both cultures growing up because I have this Igorot side, which is warrior, straightforward, frank. They'll say it in your face, oh, mataba ka ngayon. Pero it's as in that straightforward frankness na parang, I'm not calling you it as an insult. Parang I'm just saying na mataba ka ngayon. Parang ganun, I mean, that's how I grew up with, na I'm calling you out because ganito ka ngayon. Gets mo? If you get what I'm trying to say, na compared to the microaggression na, hoy, mataba ka ngayon dahil may konting may konting silang pahabol na insult or something. So, parang what I learned with my culture, that straightforward culture was call it out if it's call a spade, parang ganun. Call it's an insult. Parang that microaggression is an insult. Even if you're scared, I know we have to break those barriers. Even if you're scared of trying to do that, I mean, do it slowly, or like what Anna and Tin was saying a while ago, do it with love and kindness. Parang, daddy naman, masakit yun, parang ganun. Or like what Mamiya was saying in the chat, saying na she couldn't call out her dad because yun nga, tinawag siyang masyadong malaki na. So, maybe, because there's a familiar tie na basically we grew up na you respect the father. Talking back to your father would cause tension, would be bad, would be that. But actually, if you go back to the olden days, maybe, we were a communal society. We had to help each other out. In order to do that, we have to have a clear line of communication. And if you feel insulted, if you feel na naging masama sa'yo yun, then call it out. Or say it na in a very nice way, or say it with love na, Dad, mahal kita, pero I really felt hurt during that time. It may take a little step lang, or it may take a longer time to say that, pero at least you told them. So in the future, it won't be harder the next time. Baby steps lang.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with Maya. I think it.
Can I ask?
Yes, Renee. Go.
Go,
You're
Renee.
back. Welcome back.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
Sorry. I just want to answer the question that Nico asked. I have 3 answers to the question. Yeah. The first one is, I think, going back to the first thing that I said, that no one is exempted from from manifesting microaggression. So even tayo, possibly, we may not be aware of it, and we're already doing it. So I think the first thing that I would say as an answer to that is, sa sarili mismo natin, we need to be more mindful if we are perpetrating microaggression. And in that way, the best answer that I give is, in every single instance you are to make a comment about someone, especially something that is personal to them, take a pause and ask yourself, why am I saying this, and what is the reason for me saying this? So for instance, if you feel a strong desire of wanting to comment about someone's weight, or even just joke about it, take a pause and just ask, do I need to say this, and why do I need to say this? And I think that will already give you a better handle of your ability to perpetrate microaggression.
Okay.
Now, if you are on the receiving end of it, I think dalawa yung response doon. The first one is to assess ano yung context and saan nangyayari yung microaggression na yun. Kasi obviously it's a random stranger that you have on the street. I also feel kasi na in most cases, it becomes our responsibility. Tayo na nga yung nabiktima. Tayo kayong may responsibility to adjust to those people that are perpetrating microaggression. Kawawa naman tayo, di ba? So for me, if we have to deal with it, it has to be a relationship that matters to us. So I think, sabi niyo mga examples, if it's dealing with your father, your mother, your siblings, ganyan, or even your partner, pwedeng we take that as an opportunity to educate them as well and to openly express how we're feeling about it. However, in the context of, say, the workplace, or if professional setting siya, I think the best response there is to try, and a more proactive way of doing it. Kasi dealing with one person who does that does not really address the problem as a whole. I think the best way to deal with that is to ensure that the company creates a culture that is
inclusive,
encouraging of a more respectful or inclusive na environment. So things as simple as having gender sensitivity training within the company and ensuring that everyone is oriented about the concept of misogyny. Hindi lang yun, but also ensuring that these ideas are integrated in company policies.
So for instance, yung company ba natin mayroong polisiya against explicit and implicit manifestations of microaggression? Is there a policy that will allow us to have a grievance committee? Is there a policy that will allow us to report them? So for instance, in the government, meron tayong batas that requires all government instrumentalities. As a matter of fact, even mga companies, they're encouraged to have what we call the Committee on Decorum and Investigation. So initially, they were established to mediate yung mga concerns on sexual harassment, but that can even be further expanded to deal with manifestations of microaggression. Yung point ko lang is, there's a way for us to remind everyone in the workplace na if you're so concerned about my sexuality, for example, why do you have to think about what I do in the bedroom in the context of the work, especially if tayong lahat nandito to be productive and find a way to earn a living. So if it doesn't add to our productivity, it doesn't contribute to the company earning, then maybe there is no need for you to manifest the kind of idea that you have, especially if it's a comment about what I do in my private life that does not have anything to do with the workplace. So in summary, one, let's be mindful of us being perpetrators of microaggression as well. Two, if we have to adjust as victims of microaggression, only do the adjustment for relationships that matter. Sabi nga ni Kate Winslet in one of her films, and you don't matter enough to upset me. So if that person does not matter to you, then don't let that person upset you and don't adjust for that person. But thirdly, it is in the context where you belong in an institution where the response can be institutionalized, then I think the strategy is to ensure that it's integrated within the institutions, the bylaws, and the function of that institution.
I like that.
So yun yung
beautiful.
sagot ko dun sa question.
Rene, my phone in question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, again.
Okay, my phone in question. You made mention of this instance with a stranger. Phone in question, paano pag taong grasa daw? Nag-microaggression sa'yo. Bakla, ganon. Tapos taong grasa. joke talaga yun, dahil.
One of the in terms to the legal system that we have, we now have what we call the Safe Spaces Act. Previously kasi, the only recourse that individuals have against sexual harassment or commentaries about an individual that is unwarranted or unwanted is through the anti-sexual harassment law or the other legal remedies that we have. But with the Safe Spaces Act, it expanded the scope of where we can police manifestations of these types of harassment. Hindi na lang siya nangangailangan mangyari in the context of the workplace or the academe or training institution as what is described in the anti-sexual harassment law, but in the Safe Spaces Act includes all public spaces, including kasali nga dun yung public transportation, yung Grab, even the mall, all government offices, parks, etc. So kung may taong grasa that did that to you, then you can invoke the Safe Spaces Act and have that person held accountable for it.
Okay. I like that. Thank you, Rene. How about you guys? Ann and Tin.
Ano ulit yung question? Sorry.
Isa kang taong grasa.
Will you stand up against the taong grasa or not?
Yung main question.
Hello. Siguro kami, ako personally, hindi taong grasa. Siguro pag uwi ko, mas ready na ako sagutin yung mga titos and titas ko. Kasi out
Right,
na kami, out na ako eh. Alam na ng buong mundo na ganito ako. So, malakas na din loob ko
Okay.
na sumagot. Dati kasi, hindi ako ready.
Siyempre nicely, sumagot
Yeah, yeah,
nicely.
yeah.
Yes,
Mm.
sumagot
Mhm.
nicely.
Keyword
Pag
nicely.
nandun pa rin
Yes.
dapat yan. May respeto pa din. Yun. So, yun.
So,
Mas ready na ako. Depende talaga sa readiness siguro yun,
So, I
ano?
think
Yeah.
if yung respond mo is nire-respect mo din sila, ganun din yung parang mabibigay
sa'yo.
nila sa'yo.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yun. Yun.
At saka, sana mag-start din siya sa mga parents to younger children. Kasi sometimes it also starts when you're young.
Mm-mm.
Kasi minsan may mga nakikita akong bata who play with other effeminate children or more butch children. Iaasa rin sila ng mga cope kiddies nila na, oy bakla, o kaya tomboy, ganyan. Parang, I think it would be better if a parent would call that out na, oy, hindi hindi basis ang sexuality or gender preference as a way to diminuate another person, diba? So, parang
Yeah.
that's not a good insult in any way. So, sana it starts with the home and with the younger children now.
Mm-mm.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I agree, Maya. Mm-mm.
Ako well, kasi I consider myself young pa naman. Tapos
Yes.
I consider myself young. Pero kasi when I was younger, kasi I came from a Catholic school in the province. Doon ako nag-high school. So I was for 4 years of my life. Well, even before I came into high school in a Catholic school nga, no, medyo di naman gravely pero inculcated sa akin yung kultura ng quote unquote kulturang probinsya, yung hindi ka confrontational, yung
Mm.
oo ka na lang, sasagot ka na lang ng oo sa mga magulang, sa mga tito, sa tita, yung hindi natin kayang um, hindi natin kayang sumagot ng kung paano natin gustong sagutin, kaya laging ngingitian na lang at tatawanan. So, doon ako lumaki sa ganong culture, at least until high school. So, whenever I encounter and experience these microaggressions where sayang ka kasi nalamya-lamya ka, ganyan-ganyan. So, parang before, I usually just smile, I just brush it off, I just parang give it a free pass. I don't know how many free passes I gave already during those times. Kasi ako din personally, I also lacked education in when I was at that age because I was not open to the idea of microaggression in the way that I am now. I mean, the way na some microaggressions would sometimes feel like it's not offensive to me. So siguro dahil din dun sa inculcate sa akin ng kultura and how these nuances of the Filipino-ness of how we are not confrontational and whatnot, hindi naging offensive yung iba. Syempre meron pa ding mga offensive, pero merong mga hindi naging offensive sa akin na if I will looking back at it now, oh my God, kung sabihin mo sa akin yun, siguro I'll be very much offended kasi times change. I consider myself as more educated now compared to how I was before. So when I came to college, when I entered college, mas naging open sa akin yung ideas kasi that's also one way then or one time then for me na not only open up to myself but also open up to other people kasi I'm in a how do you call it? I'm in a more liberal area. I mean, geographically, the demographics of the area statistically as more accepting, more liberal. So mas naging madali for me yung pagtanggap ng sarili ko at pagtanggap din na tinatanggap ako ng iba. Kasi before, whenever people would tell me na, uy, okay lang yan, hindi ka kawalan, kung bakla ka, ganyan. Sometimes, I get somehow offended with the terms na, you don't have to console me because I am gay. I mean, there's nothing to console me about. Diba? So parang, when I entered college, dun ko, syempre, we're all there naman to learn. So dun ko mas na-educate din yung sarili ko on what are the things, what items should I really stand my ground on. I mean, should I what items and what opinions should I really like um give my and express my own opinion of? Kasi feeling ko whenever then I go back home kasi ngayon I've already graduated, I'm already working, so of the liberalness of what I of my college education, dinadala ko siya kasi dala-dala ko siya ngayon until now. I mean, dala-dala ko siya pag umuwi ako ng bahay sa same probinsya na inuuwian ko nung high school. So whenever I encounter microaggressions, before I would just laugh it off. And then now I see to a point that I educate the person and I somehow not rudely kasi babalik sa akin yung sisi at yung magiging ako yung masamang tao, no. Pero kung before sinasabihan ako ng sayang ka kasi bakla ka, sayang ka kasi hindi ka magkakaanak, ang tangos ng ilong mo, ang puti mo, ganyan, ang gwapo mo. So parang these words, no, albeit I think and I appreciate them that they appreciate me. Pero kasi it's not an advanced compliment. I cannot consider those things as compliment. Kasi while I am thankful naman that I have a nose, yun, parang dun na lang. Let's just all be thankful that we have noses, whether they are pointed or whether they are or ano ba, sarat. I don't know what's the English ba. Pango. Sige. Yun. Parang let's all be thankful that we have faces. Parang I appreciate naman na whenever people tell me that I am good looking, that whenever people tell me that I am fair. Pero kasi it just so happens that I'm fair. It just so happens that my nose is more on the pointed side. So parang it's a non-issue dapat eh. Kasi bakit mo i-compliment ng isang tao kung meron ka din naman nun? I mean, I mean, and I'm coming from the context of putting some traits at the top of others. Parang yun nga yung pagiging pango at pagiging matangos ng ilong. So ngayon, well, I am very happy naman na while I think I can see naman some fruits of how I educate, especially in the family, no? Kasi whenever there are visitors, yun nga, balik tayo sa tito at tita. Hindi ko alam kung bakit meron sa mga tito at tita, kung bakit sila pero balik tayo sa kanila.
Yes.
Yung mga friends ng parents, o yung mga ganun na bibisita sa bahay, tas they would often, uy, ang laki mo na, ganyan, ang gwapo mo na, ganyan, kailan ka magkaka-girlfriend, ganyan. Tapos parang you would see them na, sayang kasi bakla ka, ganyan. I can see some positive results naman kasi I would hear, siguro hindi nilang nila alam kasi nandun din ako, so naririnig ko. Pero I would hear my parents say na, hindi yan sayang kasi matalino yan. Hindi yan sayang kasi nakapagtapos yan. Hindi yan sayang kasi, I don't know why, kung siguro ganun lang sila ka-proud. Hindi yan sayang kasi best thesis yan sa isang ganyan. Yung parang, hindi na nila tinitignan as, kasi before, I would hear them na pumapatong at gumagatong sa conversation na yun. So, medyo, personally, it would shrink. It would make you feel like you're shrinking right in front of them. Yun. So, parang, I think it's one way lang on how to, parang strategize on how to educate people. Kasi, if people tell you off, and people tell you some things na let's say microaggression nga in this topic, if sagutin mo sila ng hindi yung microaggression, I mean hindi yung magandang sabihin yan, offensive ka na, offend ako, if you will like really shout at them or you really treat them na parang you'll fight fire with fire, and it would end up you just have bigger fire. If you fight stone with stone, it will end up with just a stone war, a stone fight. I mean, you need to strategize on how to deal with those things. So ayun, so I'm happy naman with how somehow there may results. Pero still, the fight is not over. The fight is mahaba pa siya. Kasi while your family is already appreciative of who you are, yung mga kapitbahay mo hindi pa. Yung mga ibang mga nasa kanto hindi pa. Yung mga grupo ng mga lalaki na nag-iinuman sa kanto, meron ka pa ding feeling na nakakatakot dumaan sa eskinita ng ganun. So hindi pa tapos yung fight, hindi pa tapos yung laban.
Yeah, at least for the women kasi they could call na sexual harassment. For the others, they could call na for discrimination. You have, like there was discrimination laws abroad regarding na if you call someone to this, to that, you can file a case, but paano tayo na part of the community? Paano tayo? Kasi we're not covered, kumbaga, we're not covered by the bylaws. We're not covered by that anymore.
Right.
Not yet pala.
True. Ako, super interested ako kay Tin and Anne kasi you're in Singapore. How is it like there? Do we have these policies ba sa company? Are we supported? Or medyo may takot tayo ng konti?
Kasi hindi naman kami dito, hindi kami permanent address dito. So we're still foreigner dito sa Singapore. And then I want to share with you one experience. I mean, medyo madaming experience ako na experience dito na as an OFW, not as a LGBT. Sumakay ako ng taxi. And then, yung driver ng taxi is local Singaporean. And then, he asked me, "Are you Filipino?" Sabi ko, "Yes." So, sabi niya, dito kasi merong place, like one mall na panay Filipino things. And then every Sunday, dun tumatambay yung mga helpers na Filipino. Yung mga domestic helpers. So, tanong niya sa'kin, "So, pumupunta ka every Sunday sa Lucky Plaza?" Sabi ko, "No."
Sa Orchard.
Yeah.
Orchard.
So, parang
Jollibee.
yeah.
Sa ground floor. Ay, sorry. Go tuloy.
Parang sa'kin, microaggression na yun na parang not all Filipino pupunta dun.
Yeah.
Pero iniisip ko 'to earlier na parang microaggression din yung respond ko sa isip ko, which is not all Filipinos go there every Sunday. So parang microaggression din yung nasa isip ko kasi parang
Hindi ka naman
hindi ako domestic helper.
Yun. Okay.
Yes.
Yung
Yes.
ka kasi Pilipino ka.
Oo, yun yung assumption ng mga locals dito.
Yeah.
Pag Pilipino,
Oo.
domestic helper.
Right.
Yan. Sa akin naman yung sa workplace ko, very accepting sila. Out ako sa kanila. Kilala din si Tin. Walang issues. Wala akong mga bad experiences na ganyan. Yun.
Depende din. Depende
maswerte ako sa workplace ko.
Swerte kami sa workplace namin.
Good. Swerte. Ako, kaya siguro tinanong ko, so like in the work, I think maganda yung point ni Rene. Parang you have to also assess if the institution where you are in supports, right, or has mga inclusivity policies all together. Kasi like ako, I used to work for BPO back then. I felt so accepted, right? Parang just nag-pride march na kami at lahat. Management supported it. Like after 2 days of sending them an email, parang support agad, di ba? Kasi ganun ang environment, multinational, no? When I transferred to a traditional Filipino company, I will not mention, okay? I was expected to walk a certain way. Alam ni Mikey yan. I was expected to talk a certain way, right? So we had this session. Ayoko na sabihin yung session, yung activity namin. So kasi we work as trainers, no? So expected na you have to look a certain way, you have to walk a certain way because you embody what the company is, right? So pinalakad kami, ganyan. No, may mga ganun kami activity, you have to walk a certain way. Tapos, we were instructed na you have to you have to walk a certain way, ganyan. That yung kamay mo dapat ganito, ganyan. So ako naman kasi, parang I just walk naturally. Wala talagang arte. I just walk the way I walk anyway, di ba? So lakad akong ganyan. Tapos parang nasabihan lang ako na parang masyado kang kumikembot. I'm like, talaga? I'm not doing it intentionally. Alam ni Mikey to. And then parang, so pinaulit ako. And then nung pinaulit, nagtatawanan. Hindi ko alam kung na-insulto talaga ako doon. And then hindi ko siya makalimutan up until this day. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't fit in this tradition. I don't fit in this company, di ba? So, nakakasama ng loob, no, at the end of the day. But may mga ganong, but again, tama sila Anne and Tin, na parang you just have to let it slip away kasi parang wala rin namang point at the end of the day. Pero if you have an opportunity, right, you have to really let them make them aware of what's going on. Another instance also I'd like to share, super quick na lang talaga to. So, alam niyo yung grade school pa tayo, yung pag nagsalita ka ng Tagalog, papahulugin ka ng piso dun sa jar or parang lata. 'Di ba? Parang English only policy, something like that in the classroom, 'di ba? So maghuhulog ka ng piso. Ganyan, 'di ba? Naalala natin ng grade school 'yan, 'di ba? It's kind of like policing everybody, but it kind of worked, 'di ba? Back then. But if you put it in the context of like the workplace, parang medyo off naman yata. Although some companies, I'm telling you, like some BPOs do that, no? So merong biru-biruan like in the team, no, before, no, where I'm working right now. Kasi nag-evolve na yung team namin. Nag-iba na yung composition and all, no? Before kasi, may pagka-traditional, may pagka-standard, kumbaga, no? So, may biruan kasi, merong trainer before I came, babae to, na sobrang ingay and loud. Tapos, ang tawag sa kanya, baklang-bakla daw, magsalita. And ako naman kasi, wala naman akong pake. Parang, I just talk. I'm loud. Super loud talaga. As in, mga Becky lingo here and there, mga charot, mga eme dyan, ganyan. Although it's funny, pero it's just how I talk, di ba? Ganun pag nagtatawanan. Tapos may parang one of our teammates, parang wala siyang intention at all of really insulting me. Pero sabi niya parang, hala, ibalik kaya natin yung parang jar policy na yun para mabawasan daw yung mga gay lingo or words ko. And nagla-lunch kami at that time. And I was like, what? Nag-pause ako and I'm like, hala, wait lang. Microaggression ba? Na-insulto ba ako? Parang na-offend talaga ako. Tinanong ko siya, sabi ko, bakit mo pinoint bringing up yung jar policy na yan? And sabi niya, hindi, wala. Gusto ko lang i-share. Sabi ko, ba't kailangan mong i-share? Tapos medyo uminit na. Tapos like yung manager ko before, talk to me. Sabi niya, okay ka lang ba? Di ba? But right now kasi, going back to Rena's point, nagbago na rin kasing environment eh. And ako, I must say this, and to Mikey also, when Mikey came, a couple of months after me, Mikey, no, sobrang laki ng relief talaga, I'm telling you. Kung hindi mo to alam, Mikey, no. So, we had this one-on-one session. And then, I found out na meron siyang partner. And like, yung sinabi ng partner, sabi ko, oh gosh, kaano ko to, ka-federasyon ko to, di ba? Parang, I felt relieved as in when Mikey came. Kasi sabi ko, dalawa na kami. And I know that, he's articulate about all these things, diba? So sabi ko, meron akong kakampi. I felt good. And then from that moment on, I don't know, for some reason, it changed. The environment changed. Our manager now is supportive of these things, no? Napaka-inclusive, right? And I believe probably our manager is watching out there. No, ang sabi niya in one of parang eat outs namin, sabi niya, Nico, don't worry. In the team right now, wala akong gauge or wala akong standards kung sinong dapat papasok or hindi based on gender or even sexuality. So you're okay, you're safe. Tapos nagkukwento siya before about his experience, ganun. Sabi niya, I am assuring you na okay tayo in the team. Okay tayo, walang problema. So, alam mo yung ganun. And then, kami lahat, we thrived. Alam mo yun, we excelled. We became more productive. We became happier, di ba? Pero meron lang, kumbaga, agreement that whenever we talk to our participants in the workshop, dapat we have to talk a certain way. And that's a given. So, tinanggap ko na yun. Kasi, syempre, kultura ng kumpanya, you have to respect the company as well, di ba?
Yeah.
So right now, we are totally in a very inclusive environment. So yun lang. Ang dami ko sinabi.
Yeah, we're kind of lucky that we have a work environment na ganun. So, pero like I think Ma'am Yao asked a question then, how do we do it on a grassroots level? Now without the help of the company, how do we do that from the very bottom? Especially let's say you're coming from the slum areas where ang hirap tibagin nung ganung culture. Or yung ganung mentality from the provinces.
Ayun. Can I answer that question ni Lan? And I think this is also my way of giving concrete examples of siguro mga concrete actions that have been done or that are being implemented that created actual changes. So the first one is just going back to the example of hindi naman kasali yung LGBTQI community or persons of diverse or under the protection of the law. A good example is going back to the Safe Spaces Act that's recently enacted. It's a law that was lobbied where yung dati pinagtatrabawan ko was very involved in. And there really was an intention to make it as inclusive as possible. So if you look at the law itself, it's one of the first laws that we have that explicitly nilagay talaga doon na persons of diverse soji or LGBTQI individuals. So may recognition. Hindi lang siya men and women or children. So merong ganon. Doon naman sa experience about the OFW, may description tayo doon na tinatawag. Pero this one, I'll borrow a language that they use in peace processes. They have what they call horizontal and vertical conflict. So yun na-experience niya with the taxi driver. That's what we call the vertical conflict. Because there is an institutional difference in the power dynamics that they have. The driver being male and the local, and her being an overseas Filipino worker. But at the same time, her response to it was also perpetrating what we call the horizontal conflict naman, wherein she tried to distance herself with the stereotype by saying, I'm not like that. In the same way na kung halimbawa tayo sinabihan, huy bakla, ganyan ka, sasabihin natin, ay hindi naman ako parloristang bakla. Iba ako, I'm professional engineer. So the fact that we're creating that delineation also reinforces that. In terms of what we can do concretely, in Iceland, for example, isa sa ginagawa nila, and this is implemented on a national level, they're looking at indicators such as how has the company ensured that the wage gap between men and women does not exist, that's an inclusive environment that does not promote discrimination on the basis of gender. Ginagamit siya as a criteria in evaluating whether or not that company gets a license to operate in the first place. So that's one concrete example that we have. In the case of the Philippines naman, and this is something that's unique to the Philippines that no other country in the world has right now, even the more gender-inclusive countries in the world, tayo lang yung bansa na may legal provision talaga na lahat ng mga government entities natin kailangan mag-allocate ng at least 5% of their annual budget to interventions that promote gender and development. And that's monetary. So government entities are actually required to implement programs, activities, and projects that contribute to gender mainstreaming. So that's also another thing that we can explore. Thirdly, isa sa masyadong mainit na pinag-uusapan yan, and I think this will also address a lot of the concerns that we have, is yung social equality bill. I think if that gets passed, that becomes an added layer of protection that we have on a national level. But another thing is you can even look at the city that you're in. So for instance, if kayo ay nagtatrabaho in a company that's located in Quezon City, for example, or Manila, itong mga lugar na to, meron na silang implement na local ordinances that ensure that persons of diverse soil should not be discriminated upon. So I think that's also another thing that we can explore. Look at the legal provisions that we have that are already in place that do promote these things. Now, as to the question ni Lance, paano naman yung sa pangkalahatan? And this is where I think we need to identify the various agents of socialization that people have. So for instance, sa school na lang, how many times did we have we seen textbooks of children that perpetrate very gendered and gender stereotypes? Like for example, pag nagpapakita sila ng images of pilots, ano yung mga nakita nila doon? Palaging lalaki. So that reinforces the mindset ng sa bata pa lang na pag sinabi mong pilot, dapat lalaki siya. Or yung mga behaviors, for instance, leadership behavior, palagi siyang na-associate sa mga lalaki. So sa school, that's one of the things that we can look into the curriculum that they have. Another thing, sa media natin, paano tayo pinoportray? Even in shows that actually claim to be representative of us. So, isa sa palaging narinig natin lately, yung mga BL shows that we have. How inclusive are they and how representative are they? And how do they reinforce stereotypes. Kasi kung titingnan natin yung mga BL shows that we have, how many BL shows we have that stars actual queer people, and in the representation itself, gaano
Right.
karami yung mga characters na nakikita natin doon that are lead characters that do
Okay.
end up with a happy relationship, that are fully
Right.
realized, that are very effeminate, that are lesbians, that are transgender.
Yes.
Gaano karami itong mga to? Most of the time, palagi natin nakikita, they're very masculine, they're very good looking. So, ano yung mensahe na pinapadala nun? So, for younger queer people, for example, that sets a standard na for me to have access to a relationship, for me to be permitted to have a romance, I have to fit that particular image.
Okay.
Or for individuals that are not familiar with the community, yun yung nakikita nila, that sets an expectation. So for instance, kung actual viewer ka, you're not a queer person, and nakita mong representation ay yun lang, that shapes your expectations of what gay people are. So, for instance, for the masses, karamihan sa nakikita natin, I see Vice Ganda as the image. So, one very recent incident na nakita ko na trending si Vice Ganda was when they invited yung cast ng gaya sa pelikula, and they were asking questions such as, sa inyong dalawa, sino yung mas effective, sino yung manifest or closer to becoming
Mas
gay?
tigasin.
A lot of these things are very stereotypical, and yung the way that he's interrogating the sexuality of these individuals is not in a productive way, but for fun and for entertainment. So I think for instances like this, we can have these people held accountable. Yung mga ganun na mga concrete examples, I think. So again, you can explore legal systems. So we have local ordinances. We can also look at agents of socializations that we have. If we have nieces or children or younger siblings, we can check what they're learning in school, the things that they're learning from their teachers, and what we see on media. And we have to actively use our platform to speak about these things if necessary. And if there's a person that is not part of the community, probably needs more nuance, we can explain to them that is not representative of the entirety of the community, but just one aspect of it. So yun yung mga concrete things that I can see na pwede nating gawin and to explore to address all those questions that Lance asked earlier.
Right.
Yeah, and I think another example would be, because I have a very good aunt, na tita, na she lets her kid become free, whoever she or he wants to be. Na if she wants to play with cars today, she could. If she wants to play with Barbies tomorrow, she could. Parang if she wants to wear a hoodie to go to school the next day, pwede rin. If she wants to wear a dress or parang shorts lang today, parang it's up to her. She's just telling her, you can be free to who you want to be growing up. So as long as you're happy, we're happy. Parang I think she was the greatest example that I saw growing up na rin na, oh, I wish we all had that kind of mentality somehow when we had those kinds of figures when we were all growing up.
Right.
Yeah.
Siguro maganda, no? I think the strongest... Go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're still on the last question or the previous question, but I also wanted to sort of like weigh in on that. In terms of, let's say, dealing with the microaggression that you encounter, I guess it depends on the circumstances. Kasi, number one, there are instances wherein you're not really sure if it was a microaggression or not, but there are some things that you have to really do a double take on or to think more about it, because number one, either you might not have heard it correctly, or secondly, maybe it wasn't really a microaggression, and maybe you were just overthinking it or thinking differently about it in that particular instance, right? So one of the things that I would probably do is, if I wasn't sure, I would ask, like, what did you say? Can you say that again? What did you mean by that, right? And probably I would not jump into that conversation with anger because sometimes we jump to conclusions, right? So I would probably go into it with a mindset of curiosity. Like I really want to know if they said what they said. sometimes if I have a friend with me or someone else with me, I would ask them, "Did you hear that? Did they just say that to me?" you know, because again, I might have misheard it. So to have another person corroborate what you've heard is a good thing as well. But again, yeah, if you're alone, then you really have to think about what they said and clarify, right? And just like what Maya said, I think the second thing is if it was identified that it was a microaggression, my second question or my second sort of like step is, do I respond to that microaggression? Because like he said, if it's a boss and you're eyeing for a promotion, what are the chances that you calling him out on that microaggression may affect your chances of getting that promotion? So alam mo
Yeah.
yun, it's all of those other considerations that you have to think about, and you have to weigh what am I willing to sacrifice by addressing this microaggression, or how far am I willing to go in addressing this microaggression. So ang dami-dami mong kailangan pag-isipan, right? But if I were comfortable, I would tell them that what you just said is offensive to me, and this is how it impacts other people if they heard it. Diba? Kasi parang we have to think about not just us, but if he says it again, then we have to give them an idea of how it could be taken by another person, right? So it's very important to provide them the impact of what they did, and we have to be factual about it as well. Diba? We don't attack the person; we talk about the behavior and its possible impact. And then finally, how do I maybe address it? Do I just tell them? Do I sit them down? Do I slap them? I'm not a violent
Sabunutan mo
person, by
daw.
the way. I'm not a violent person. No, what I mean is, how would I be able to deliver it in such a way that they would listen to me? Because there will be instances wherein baka kailangan kong maging assertive talaga, you know? Or maybe kailangan sigawan match to. I don't know. It all depends on maybe your level of comfort with that person and also maybe the circumstances of the situation. So how do I respond? Do I wait a little bit, or do I ask them a question first, sort of like lead them towards realizing what they did was wrong, or do I tell it to them straight? Alam mo, parang what you did was wrong, and the reason it's wrong is because of this. You know, so I guess it's just mainly those things, right? So confirm, check for yourself, internalize. Was it a microaggression? Secondly, do I respond to it? Am I comfortable? Is it safe? And thirdly, how? Like, what way should I respond to it? So there, I think that's my answer to that.
I agree. Maganda. Very concrete, Mikey, no? I think I was able to pick up a lot from that, no? But I'm more curious also with Anne and Tin kasi I don't know how it's like to live in Singapore, being an OFW. Nag-share na kayo about your experience with the cabby, no? And then may mga comments here and there. And then plus kayo, you are a couple, no? Definitely. Parang, ano yung nararamdaman yung pwede nyong gawin as a couple or as an individual if you see all these microaggressions across intersectionality siguro, like as an OFW, as a Filipino, as a couple, probably as a woman. I mean, ano kayong pwede nyong gawin?
For us, I think dahil nandito kami sa foreign country, para sa'kin, wala pa akong ano, lakas ng loob. Halimbawa, may nakita ko,
Yeah.
wala pa akong kunwari, if ever kunwari sa bus, or MRT, madami ditong experience yung mga Filipinos na kasi 'di ba ang mga Filipino
Ma
ma masayahin. So 'pag
medyo malakas ang
nagkuwentuhan
boses.
sila sa bus or MRT, malakas yung boses.
Oo.
And then yung mga locals
Ayaw
is
nilang gano'n.
oo, ayaw nila ng gano'n, totally. Siguro for me, wala akong lakas ng loob na pumasok sa gano'ng
Right.
Oo.
kasi parang nandito kami sa foreign country, eh, na parang
True.
hindi ko alam kung tama ba 'to or mali. Parang parang lupa nila 'to.
Okay.
So, although alam ko na mali yung siguro depende din sa approach nung mga tao. Minsan titingnan ka lang na masama, gano'n. Or minsan hindi naman yung katulad nun sa US na i-a-attack ka talaga,
Oo,
hindi naman gano'n.
yung pagka-racist. Dito naman hindi naman eh.
Oo.
Medyo
Okay.
titingnan ka lang.
Or i-vi-video, tapos
I-video ka lang nila, tapos ipo-post na lang sa Facebook. Makikita mo
mga
yung video.
gano'n.
Seryoso?
Oo.
Mm.
So, meron din dito na dahil gano'n nga, maiingay yung mga Filipino, yung thinking nila, may proposal na parang magkaroon ng sariling bus ang mga domestic helpers, parang gano'n.
Oh my God.
Sila. So, gano'n iba yung racist dito sa Singapore, hindi katulad sa US na talagang attack.
Okay.
Gano'n. So, mahirap
kasi silang
mahirap silang i-correct. Mahirap din silang i-approach.
Yeah.
Siguro para sa'min, dahil may YouTube channel kami, siguro din, puwede naming gawing way 'yun, yung channel namin na i-educate yung people. Hindi man direct sasabihin namin sa tao, pero nasa sa kanila na 'yun kung i-accept nila or not. Basta kami nag-educate through the platform. So, ayun.
Pero hindi naman namin nilalahat yung mga locals, hindi naman lahat. May mga kagaya ko nga sa workplace ko mababait naman sila, so may mga iilan-ilan din. Kasi siguro naman kahit saan meron din naman na gano'n yung sa iba-ibang way. So yun.
Yeah.
And to add, may tanong ako. I have experience na nag-out ako sa isang friend. Friend ko talaga siya, na girl. Nag-out ako na, "Uy, I'm lesbian, I have girlfriend," ganyan. So, kinonfirm ko sa kanya. And then, ang respond niya sa'kin, "Naging type mo ko?"
Good question.
Hindi ko alam yung isasagot ko kung kapag sinagot kong, "Hindi," ma-o-offend siya. Kapag
Right.
Bakit hindi? Maganda naman ako. 'Pag sinabi ko namang, oo, parang
Oh my God, grabe. The dilemma, no?
So, hindi ko alam yung kung paano yun i-respond na hindi siya ma-o-offend kasi either way ma-o-offend siya eh. Yung gano'n.
Wait.
That's a good
Sabihin mo hindi
question.
ka maganda. Joke.
Siguro, and if I were thinking about it, I would tell you to probably tell the truth because you can't lie just for the sake of saving or not offending that person. And if you are gonna offend them either way, might as well go with the truth. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's me.
Yeah, it's like what you do with what you said a while ago then, tell the truth and do it in kindness. Parang ganun lang din na parang, parang, I may fall for girls, but we all have a type. Parang ganun.
Yeah.
Di ba? We have a different spectrum. Friends zone muna period.
Hindi ka maganda.
Alam mo, maganda ka as a friend.
I think one of the
That's a microaggression. That's a microaggression. Parang it's very similar to men seeing gays as interested in all men.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Yes.
no. No, just because you're a guy, no, right? So I think it's very similar. Porque babae ka, matataypan kita. That's actually a microaggression because it's a stereotype.
I think one of the things that you can do when you're asked the question is to ask back. Tanungin mo kaibigan mo, why are you asking this question?
Yes.
One way na you can open opportunity to discuss it. Kasi most likely, friend mo, nagagaling from a place of a preconceived bias na pag lesbian ka, automatically attracted ka sa mga babae. So, if that person confronts his or her biases, just because you ask the intention behind the question, una, that's a very polite way of doing it. But second, that allows for non-confrontational opportunity for you to
educate that person. But thirdly, it shifts the power on your side by making that person explain kung bakit niya tinatanong yon.
Yes.
And if yung person naman
Yes.
ay walang matinong basis for asking that question, curious lang siya, then one of the things they can say is, if you're not comfortable answering that question, then I think you can be honest and and say na, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable answering that question because I'm not sure what the implication of my answer would be to our
Okay.
relationship. And I think us being friends is very important to me. That's why I don't want to go there. I think maintindihan niyo naman yun.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another kwento that I heard. No, um, somebody made a sexist remark, and then one of the girls that heard it said, and then everyone laughed, and she didn't laugh. And she
Okay.
said that she was told by her father that if you hear a sexist joke and it's not funny, don't laugh at it. Because if you laugh at it, it only enables them, it only empowers them, it only makes them think that
Right.
the joke is okay. So
Yes.
she didn't laugh.
Okay.
And the next thing that she did, she asked the one who made the joke, the sexist remark, why is that funny? And then he was like, huh? How can? And she was like, no, I really want to know. I want to
Actually,
understand.
yeah.
Why is it funny?
Right.
And just like Rene said, he had to explain the joke, and when you have to explain a joke, it's no longer funny
Yes.
Yeah.
because
Yes.
now you have to explain why you being sexist is
It's
correct
fun.
when it's not correct, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
I think Nico, you also mentioned the story about a lesbian who was doing a beat in one of the places in Manila. And I think one of the policemen told her na parang, alam mo, sayang ka. Kung parang, na-try mo na bang, magmahal ng lalaki or makipagrelasyon sa lalaki? Diba? And she was like, well, sir, ikaw, na-try mo na bang makipagrelasyon sa lalaki? Ay, hindi ko gagawin yun. Hindi ko type yan. Eh, sir, ganun rin naman ako sa lalaki. Diba? So, it was her way.
Yes.
It was her way of
Yes.
explaining that
Ako yun.
why would you think that I would be interested in a guy when you are not interested in a guy? It's the same thing for me. It's not something that I can fight. It's just who I am. So that sort of like made them understand, or at least put on that mindset. So yun, yeah, definitely ask them a question, have them explain it.
Yes.
Right.
Especially kapag
So,
ginagawa
ayan,
tayong radar na human. So I usually throw them the same question. Why do you need to know? I mean, what's your purpose? Why do you need to know?
Ayan.
Why?
Isa pa yan. Good thing that you made mention of that, Lance. Kasi, kunwari, papasok ka sa opisina, no, bago ka pa lang na empleyado, magtatanong yan sa likod mo, bakla ba yan? Ano ba kayo mo? Hindi ka naman maganda. Diba?
Hindi mo ako marunong mag-PowerPoint. PowerPoint lang yan.
Parang, hindi ako mind reader, hindi na ako gender reader. No?
Kinalaman yung sexuality ko sa PowerPoint na yan.
Yes. Uy, siguro, gusto kong i-highlight siguro, kasi I'm really curious about the intersectionality of microaggression, no? Parang, Tin and Anne, have you heard of Pink Dot Singapore?
Yes.
Yan. Ipapakita ko na, share ko lang to, and I think probably some of you may have not heard about this. I'll just show some photos via Google. Then gusto kong makuha yung insights nila Tin and Anne about Pink Dot Singapore. So it's an event in Singapore, no, Anne, Tin. Tapos, ayan, hindi ko ma-access, hindi ko ma-open, hindi ko ma-share yung browser ko. So, it's an event, no, for the LGBTQ+, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, ako, before kami mag-meet ni Ann, madami akong group of friends na mga lesbians.
Okay.
And then, tsaka ako nalaman yung Pink Dot. So, ayan, that one.
Yep.
Yung Pink Dot, actually, hindi kami kasama. Hindi kami, paano ba? It's only, yung invited lang is for locals and PRs. Yung mga foreigners, bawal.
Oh.
So, kahit gusto namin pumunta diyan, hindi kami allowed.
I
Oo.
see. Ooh.
Oh,
That's another
Unlike-
topic on how problematic that is, in my opinion.
yes.
Right.
It defeats the purpose kasi.
Yeah.
Wait lang.
So,
Wait,
the pink dot is parang our
lang.
pride, kumbaga? Or
Bet
ganun?
ko to. Sino ba to? Joke lang. Joke lang. Papatawa lang po.
Kala Towers na ba?
Yeah.
Towers na ba?
Malapit na. Isang hour na lang.
Uy, ngayon lang talaga namin nalaman, Antin, na for locals lang yung Pink Dot Singapore. Interesting. Okay.
So, that time, parang gusto pa namin ng friends namin na mag-order ng t-shirt from the group in Philippines na friends din namin. Para yun yung isuot namin sa Pink Dot.
Yep.
Yun nga, nalaman namin na hindi kami pwede
Oh
doon.
my gosh.
Gusto namin yung Filipino community ng lesbians dito sa Singapore.
Correct.
Yun.
Sorry, I'm curious, like how is it not allowed? Parang, is there a registration na?
Yeah.
Parang
may registration. Pero wala namang bayad.
Pero it requires na dapat like may Singapore ID, national ID, like may ganun na. So wala talagang way on how to be registered if you are not a citizen, a Singaporean in a sense.
Malalaman nila yan. Malalaman nila. Trace dito.
Wow. Shocking to. While if you go across the board with the other countries, then pwede ka tumawid if you're a foreigner joining Pride.
Yeah.
Oo.
Yeah, it's shocking lang.
Grabe. This is interesting, no? Yeah.
Siguro,
And I used to like to go to Pink Dot.
feeling ko siguro kinokontrol din nila yung crowd. Kasi if mag-accept sila ng foreigner, of course, dadagsain niya ng iba't ibang bansa, 'di ba? Like Taiwan.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
at dito sa Singapore hindi pa masyadong accepted.
Okay.
Lalo na yung mga majority. Yun.
Gotcha.
Right.
Alam mo, gumawa na kayo ng ibang dot event nyo dyan, no? Parang purple dot Singapore, mga ganyan. Chartreuse
Or
dot
Perry dot.
Ayun, mga periwinkle dot Singapore. Na lang.
Aquamarine dot. Ganun.
Yeah.
Tool dot na sila para Pinoy na Pinoy.
Angry Samoan dot.
Uy, Tin, siguro, parang we're almost actually over with the session now. We just have one more particular question. But sana ma-invite namin kayo in one of our reviews. Baka i-review din namin si Pearl Next Door dito sa BBS.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we do after show chats kasi like parang bundle session, pag session. Unlike what you guys do na you do it live while you're watching the show, kami we do that parang aftermath nun.
Yeah.
So hopefully we could get more of your opinions about the show. Ganun.
Correct. And to all the viewers out there, I'll be flashing their channel. This tama ba no? And Wind with Tin.
Yes.
Tama spelling ko na yan. So please subscribe to their channel.
It's a play on unwind. Yeah.
Akala ko name. Sabi ko,
cute, diba?
Sabi ko, ang unique naman ng name.
Galing din.
What? Catchy. So to all the viewers out there, you can subscribe to their channel. It's Unwind with Tin. Ano usually ang ginagawa niyong video dito?
Ngayon
what's
nasa
your
season
content?
Nasa season 2 na kami. Because season 1 is like mix content.
Halo-halo, unboxing.
Yeah, ngayon season 2 is focus kami sa relationship ng LGBT, like relationship namin.
Yes.
Lesbians, ganun. So,
I like that.
yun yung season 2 namin.
Para makakait na din ng awareness.
Oo.
Yes! Ay, gusto ko yan! Perfect.
Diba? Kaya nga Tito Gas approve sila eh. Kasi you could see their in culture, yung what is it like to be in their
Yes.
shoes while watching their videos.
I love that.
Kasi
Yes, yes.
kami din hindi rin kami masyadong aware about hindi pa kami masyadong exposed sa LGBT community.
Okay,
Gusto
okay.
gusto rin naming matuto.
Oo.
Gusto
Okay.
din namin matuto and then gusto din naming ma-share yung experience namin. Ganun.
Great, great. Alam mo, I think I shared this with Mikey and another friend, no. Sabi ko nga gawa ka kasi meron kaming tinatawag na TNT boys with a team. So, tatlo kami, mga backs. So, sabi ko, gawa kaya tayo ng vlog or blog tayong tatlo and let's share our stories. Kasi feeling ko, these
Yeah.
stories will help people understand who we are. And I think your vlog, Ann and Tin, will really help us understand what's going on. Even kami, no, at the end of the day. So, yeah, Godspeed. I mean, kudos to your channel. Please subscribe to this channel and Wind with Tin. Manonood na kami. But I hope ma-invite namin kayo in one of our series reviews for Pearl Next Door. And I think Pearl Next Door will not be the last GL in the Philippines.
No.
We'll see more of this definitely. But yeah. Yun. So, Tin, yan, thank you so much. And of course, I'd like to flash also ang socials naman ni Rene. Ayan. He has his Twitter.
Yes, Renee, thank you.
You can go on Twitter and follow him. And then Facebook, it's Rene Gandeza. Yan. So, yun.
Okay, let me follow him now.
Yeah, I'll follow now.
Wait,
So while you are guys, So while
Go,
everyone
go.
is following, no, I just want to invite everyone with how many thousand viewers that we have right now to please share what we can and donate. We've talked about it in our last session. No? We basically partnered with an organization. Which is buy a plant, build a house, build a home.
Home.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, just to recap, because I know we have new faces, we have new viewers. So for us na who wants to help rebuild the life in Catanduanes, no? Basically it's an organization where you can buy plants, and then the proceeds will go to rebuilding the homes and the roofs of the people who are devastated by typhoons Rolly and Ulysses in Catanduanes. Yeah. So the socials will be there in the naka-marquee na banner sa baba. So you can check the page, you can check the Facebook, and all the other details are there. So
yeah. Current update, Doc Noreen was saying that they're shooting the plants now. Or yeah, they were shooting the plants a while ago. So I think they're gonna do the website maybe in the coming week. So if you're a plantito or a plantita, don't forget to buy. If you're not, you can just donate instead through cash to Beverly Johnson and all the other bank accounts below. There's GCash, the GPI. So you do help,
Or you can
especially
buy
that
the
every
plant and
roof
then give
needs
it
a
as a
home.
gift.
Yes, that could work too.
Okay. Ayan, so sabi nga ni Mark, no, it's flashed at the bottom, no, sa marquee. If you want to donate, please do so. We will keep on promoting this initiative, no. Siguro as an ender, before I turn you over to Mark, no, for our last say siguro. Parang I have one last question here siguro for everybody. Para medyo light naman yung end natin. Ayan. Hinahanap ko talaga yung banner ko at hindi ko talaga siya mahanap, no. Nawawala siya somewhere.
Sige.
Sige
Ayan,
lang.
so how can we what can we do to make things better? It's a very open-ended question.
While you're looking
But,
for that, I just want to say thank you to our guests.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
for being here.
Nawala na. Buko Wi-Fi is real?
Ayun, so
Wi-Fi. Oh my god.
Yeah, I've been having it a while ago pa.
Ayan, so Tin and Ann, thank you so much for gracing us in this show. Maliit lang to na show na to, but awareness yung kailangan natin dito.
And Renee
of course, my friend and Rene, thank you so much for the insights. This is actually
Thank you so much as well.
when was the last time na nakita tayo, Rene? It was in a talk by PJ Pascual or this CEO from Maynila sa poblasyon, nakita kami saglit doon. And this is when was that? Matagal na, no, Rene?
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. So
That was I think, last year.
Last year pa, yeah. So, ito lang yung mahaba ang usapan namin. We usually stay up until midnight. Pag nag-uusap kami nito, no, ang dami namin pinag-uusapan. May mga dramatics pa kaming eksenang ganyan before back in college. But I will definitely see Rene one of these days. Thank you so much for the insights, your expertise in gender and development. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Rene.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Ayan.
Thank you.
Siguro,
Okay.
Thank you.
So who would
Thank
like
you
to
for
answer
having
that
me. It was
first?
a pleasure.
Yeah.
yes. Siguro itong ender question na lang natin. What can we do to make things better?
Sa amin, ito, show
Siguro
nyo,
ganun pa rin.
yung show nyo is one big step para ma-educate yung people.
Para mag-create ng awareness.
Oo. At through this YouTube, malaki yung impact nito sa mga tao na lalo pa ngayon nasa
Social media.
nasa social media yung mga tao. So,
Yep.
ito yung awareness talaga kailangan natin as para sa atin na YouTuber din. Ayun,
Marami kaming natutunan. Ayan. Sobrang thank you sa pag-invite sa amin. Sabi ko nga kanina, bago nyo kami invite, hindi namin alam yung term na microaggressions. Pero through this show, ayun, marami kaming natutunan.
Yes.
Yan. Kaya sobrang thank you sa inyong lahat. Yan.
Thank you, Ann and Tim.
Oo, kami.
Yes.
Educate kami. So, mas magiging aware kami sa mga sasabihin namin, tsaka kung paano i-handle
Yep.
yung mga situations.
Pero natuto din kami sa inyo ha, sa totoo lang.
Right. Oo, ang dami.
Definitely.
Yes.
Ayan.
Thank you for sharing.
Who'd like to go next?
So who'd like to start?
Go, Nico.
Maybe
Ako
Renee.
talaga. Ako siguro, I think I have to agree and piggyback on and Tim.
Piggyback.
Parang, yeah, let's keep on doing these shows. No, let's keep supporting other channels doing these awareness videos, like such as yung kay Latin and Ann. No, let's keep supporting each other. No, let's feed more information. Let's share more stories. Ako mas gusto ko talaga yung mga kwento, yung mga narratives, kasi from there we can discuss and talk and be in a discourse. Mas naiintindihan natin yung pinagdadaanan natin. Yun lang. That's from my end. Yeah.
Okay, Lance. Facilitator ako. Let's go, Lance.
Okay. Ikaw yung huli, di ba?
Siguro same.
Yeah, I think...
just continue the conversation. Just continue. Oh, no.
Continue the Wi-Fi.
Continue the Wi-Fi, move the gas. What else? Go, Mikey. Since you're talking, go ahead. Baka kailangan sa tagalan natin.
Oh my God. It's good that we're almost at the end of our show because yes, my Wi-Fi is really acting up. But yeah. So continue the conversation, continue continue educating people, and continue supporting efforts that are LGBTQIA plus affirming, because we need to help each other out. That's it. That's it for me. Thank you.
Yes.
So ako na.
Yeah, go Lance.
Ako na talaga. Yeah, and I still want to piggyback on what Ann and then you said the first thing they said when they came in. We have to handle this with kindness, and what Rene was saying, handle it with context, and it depends on wherever you are. If it's in the workplace, in the house, in the home, or the group of friends, just bear in mind that it should be done with context and with kindness.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully we get to share that our stories, or what we know, with baby steps na rin. Like, let's saturate this, like what Easy Ferrer kept on saying over and over and again. I'm going to say it again. Let's saturate our stories until we reach na everything's plain, everything's on the surface level, and everything is just love is love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ako naman, lang. Of course, I just like to appeal to everyone to be more careful with the things that they're saying before opening their mouth. before
Yes.
releasing any words. Just have 1 second lang to think. Will it hurt another
Okay.
person that if those words were said to me? Would it hurt me? So yun lang. And siguro let's create a culture where feedback is more acceptable because
Mhm.
our dilemma nga
Yeah.
earlier is that especially among Filipinos, with the elderly, with seniority in the workplace, it's more difficult to call out these issues. So maybe with conversations like this, we will build a critical mass to make it more acceptable
Mhm.
to give feedback to correct these things in the future.
Right.
Okay, Mark, go.
Yes.
Well, for me, what can we do to make things better? Well, first and foremost, we just need to keep talking about it. Even when people try their very best to shut us up, we just need to keep talking about it because one day we don't know when will that be. Hopefully tomorrow. Realistically, it's not gonna be at the end of this year even. Pero hopefully, there will come a tomorrow when we do not need to to talk pa na use such platforms like this because it will all be accepted. It will all be normalized. So I just hope that we all continue on talking about it so that we infiltrate, if that's for the lack of a better term, infiltrate
Right.
the
Mhm.
the mainstream where being mainstream should be responsible. So
Yeah.
yun lang.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that, having said that, again,
Okay.
thank you so much to Rene and Unwind and Tin. Unwind and Tin talaga sa YouTube talaga ni Tin. So yun, Ann and
Oy,
Tin. Sorry,
Right.
ngayon ko lang kasi talaga na-realize yung Unwind pala. Unwind. Akala ko, sino
di
una?
ba? Mind blown.
Unwind. So, ang unique nung name, Unwind. So, oh my God, ganun ka. Kasi yun pala. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Mark,
for that.
baka Rene has something to say. Rene?
Oh yeah, okay.
Hello?
Siguro to answer
Knock,
the
knock.
question na lang rin, what can we do to make things better? Not just in respect to the discussion that we had, but generally to make everything better.
Mm.
If you are not a registered voter, please take time to register. And
Yes.
Mhm.
the upcoming election, we need to ensure that we use our power and our vote
Mhm.
to vote into office public officials that would make sure that legislations that recognize our specific identities and specific issues that concern our community gets elected. So I think that's the best and most
Here, here.
concrete things that I can imagine that will have the maximum impact. Register to vote and actually vote for candidates that support our cause.
Yes, yes. Vote Halalan 2022. Naging political tayo.
Yes.
Yes,
No?
sir.
Thank you, Rene. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, naging political tayo kasi it's really something we cannot take away from our normal lives. So no
Yes.
matter how much we say that we are apolitical or like we don't want to talk about it because it stresses us so much. Pero kasi it's very important. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Renee and Anne and Tin, and with the rest of the Bruhaha B squad. No? We'd like to thank everyone. So yeah, um, let's all watch out, fan. No? I think we have
Can
one.
we take
We have
a
one more pan, no? Yeah, we have one more talk na. Let's just watch
Yes.
out for the poster on how on what the topic will be. So again and again and again, thank you so much for watching, and you can also share your appreciation with us by following Bruja Hobby Squad on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. And again, thank you so much to our 278 subscribers now. So
Yay!
again, thank
Yes, thank
Yay.
you.
Anne and
Can
Tim,
we take
thank
a
you.
group
Rene,
photo
thank
or
you.
something?
thank you.
Group
Yeah, sige, after.
photo.
Everyone, have a good night.
Night,
Night,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you so much. Ciao.